Yeah, we kind of buried the lead. We kind of led them all into this, and then all of a sudden we're like, surprise, we're hippies.
Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Dylan Callier. I'm a physical therapist, and welcome to the New Medical Nomads podcast, where I get to document my journey as a medical traveler, as well as interview other experts within the traveling field. Now, the rules for the traveling game are constantly changing, so anything you hear on this show should be for entertainment purposes only. This is not legal, financial, or medical advice. Enjoy the show and safe travels.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the New Medical Nomads podcast. My name is Dr. Dylan Callier, and today I am with Kelsey and Phil, and they are traveling physical therapists. And how are you guys today?
Good.
We're really good.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much for coming on. And can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, kind of how long you've been in the travel game and where you're at in the world right now?
Yes.
So we graduated back in 2015 from Ohio State University. We both went there. And
we met in...
Sorry, I got distracted by Kelsey's phone.
You're good. You're good.
Start, rewind.
So we're both graduated from Ohio State University in 2015. That's where we went to school.
That's where we met.
That's where we met too.
We eloped during school.
We eloped.
Ooh, controversial.
That's the whole thing.
We were told we were the only students to ever actually elope during school.
Yeah. And we've been traveling ever since then. We got we came right out in new grads and started traveling. We are currently in a hotel room in San Francisco. We're kind of located around San Francisco as well.
Okay.
Next month or so. So
Got it. I have actually spent quite a few trips over in Columbus, Ohio. Two of my very good friends moved out there for school. One was in the law degree, one was in business, and I'd visit very frequently. So I'm pretty familiar with the short north and those areas as well.
It's a little hipster town, like surrounded by corn.
Yes. Good. I was told, welcome to the real Midwest when I went there. And the first time I went there, it was probably like, it had to be like 10 degrees, like plus wind chill. That was awful.
Yeah.
Really cold.
It's where people say pop.
Pop. Yeah.
The rest of the world doesn't.
All right. So when you guys were deciding to jump into this whole travel thing, was one of you all for it and one was kind of reserved, or how did you both want to do this for a long time? How did that work out?
So I just met several people in my life when I was even still an undergrad that did traveling physical therapy or occupational therapy. My undergrad was in athletic training, and I already knew I wanted to do physical therapy. And then when we started dating, I'm kind of bossy, so I think I just told him. I think I was like, I'm doing traveling therapy. Like, you in or out before we go on to date or something.
Yeah, I didn't really have a preference either way. I think I went into PT school like a lot of people do, where they think, I got introduced to PT through outpatient because I injured my knee, so I knew outpatient sports PT. That's kind of what I wanted to do. And then as I went through school, it didn't hit me that I had to do outpatient PT. It didn't hit me that I had to do something else. I was kind of okay with whatever. So when she was like, let's do traveling, I was like, that's cool. Let's do that.
Yeah. And then our second year as physical therapists, we actually presented a poster together at CSM. And so then I went around to all of the travel therapy booths, every single one I could find, and said, here's the deal. I want to do traveling. Just give me your information. I still got a year to go. And then by the time we got to our third year, we went back to CSM because I had another poster that I presented them by myself. And then I went around again to all of the booths and said, it's me and my husband. We're a package deal. What do you have for us? Got it.
Very cool. And so you guys have been traveling for the past 2 years then?
Yeah. Coming up to 3.
2.5, 3 almost. Yeah.
Crazy. That's awesome. How was that negotiations with like trying to find companies that would work with a couple and finding positions for you both?
So We actually at first had more trouble with the new grad title.
Yes.
We talked to a couple companies, and they, some companies said that you needed a year of experience, so they wouldn't even, they would talk to us, but they wouldn't get us jobs,
Or they would say, you have to do your first placement with us in Ohio. And we knew we wanted to travel. Both of us traveled for our clinicals. He went all the way to Washington. I went all the way to Texas. And we said, no, we've gone out of state. We're grown-ups. We got this. And a bunch of companies kept saying no, that I don't know. They didn't want us to get homesick or something. But every company that we said we were together, they said they loved it. They said, we're getting a 2-for-1 special. That's what.
Yeah. We thought it would be a lot harder to find. We've had times where it's been harder to find 2 jobs together. But usually it's been pretty good for most people in terms of jobs together and everything like that. So we had too many troubles.
Okay. Awesome. So when you guys were starting out, you found the company that you wanted to work for. When you were starting as traveling physical therapists, how was getting your placements? Were you both working in like the same clinic or setting, same company, or would one of you do home health, one outpatient? Can you kind of describe that?
Yeah, so we got pretty lucky with our first placement, actually. We were in, it was kind of a very quick one. We didn't have any other state licenses when we got out of school. We were originally going to go to Minnesota through our company, and then that fell through at the very last minute. And then an outpatient job in New Mexico opened up, and like within 2 weeks, we were getting our job or getting our license, getting our job out in New Mexico. And we were really fortunate with that one. That one was a really good placement for us.
Yeah. We shared a desk.
Yeah, we shared a desk.
Same hours. We also made it clear we were new grads. And so in the interview, we said, are there other therapists there? And do we even have like a mentor type person if it's needed? And they more than delivered on that.
Okay.
They taught us a lot. And then even our second job, so we did 6 months there. We ended up renewing.
Oh, wow.
And then our second job, same thing. We got in a hospital and we worked same hours, shared a desk again.
Yep.
Other therapists to help us if we needed it. It was great.
Yeah.
And then we hit a patch where we had to do one of us home health, one of us outpatient, but that actually was perfect because I wanted to do home health. It was something they never taught us in school, and I didn't want to get too far because I feel like once you have 10 years experience as a PT, they almost assume you should know more. So as I was still young, starting out, I wanted to be very confident in every single setting. Got
it. It's very cool. Yeah, definitely using travel to your advantage for the getting experiences and getting those skills. And
now we're back together, outpatient, same hours.
Okay. Very good. Got it. What has been some unexpected benefits of traveling with your married partner? And then what's been an unexpected challenge with it as well?
I think one of the big benefits is that sometimes it can be worrying or whatever it is when you start a new job, right? Because you don't know whether you're a traveler or not a traveler or whatever. You don't know what you're going into. But with ours, where we're both working the same hours, we're both working the same job, it's nice to have someone else to put ideas off of. If you have questions about, what you're supposed to be doing with the documentation system, and you can throw it to them instead of having to ask coworkers who might not know or you might not be comfortable with.
Got it.
You walk in with someone.
Yeah, just being able to be there with someone else is kind of nice. Takes the pressure off a little bit.
Got it.
Also, marriage is super easy when it's just like the two of you. Like our family's great. We love our family, but they're across the country. Like we do whatever we want when we want to do it. Like marriage is so easy. Just like two of you, doing whatever.
Yeah.
Let's see, step back. Oh, we did get turned down from a job that would have been like a perfect situation. It was by my mom's. We really wanted to be by them for a little bit. And the main person would not hire us, even though we had already been doing it for a year and a half. And she just kept saying, well, there's going to be a family emergency and then I'm going to lose 2 of my therapists. And he was like, I promise you, like, I will not take off for a family emergency. I don't care.
Yeah.
Which they wouldn't hire us. So it was fortunate that we lost out on that one.
Got it. I mean, that does make sense that there would be a risk like that. But yeah, that's the first time I've ever heard that. That's very interesting.
Yeah. And it's such a weird thing because the odds of a family emergency, I think, are pretty low. But I guess it is possible. And yeah, and so she wouldn't do it. And the one lady kept talking to her company and was saying, yeah, we just have to finalize it. We really want to hire you guys. And then the final lady just kept saying no.
Yeah. Got it. Wow. Okay. So you guys are almost 3 years into it now. Is there anything that you wish you would have known starting out that you know now?
Yeah, that the companies need you as much, maybe even more than you need them. We didn't realize how much bargaining power we had.
Yeah, because we always thought that it was just like, I guess we never really thought about it too much. It seemed like they needed people, but they weren't desperate for people. And not every place is desperate for people, but there's a reason that they have travelers coming in, and it's because they can't find permanent people to stay on. They can't have people, and they need the patients to get seen. And so you have more leeway than you think. You have more bargaining.
Yeah. Especially with, outpatient places, sometimes they're sending out their referrals because they cannot take them. So that's money that they're losing. A lot of the skilled nursing facilities, they're calling in people as needed for these evals, so they're paying them so much. So we definitely, I don't think, realize that we could bargain even the simplest thing. Like, we just assumed we had to do 5/8, and then within a month, our one manager said, no, you could have done 4/10s. You should have just asked. And we
Got it. Yeah, that was something my friend just started as a occupational therapist, and she's traveling, and she's basically making her own schedule at the place that she went now. So it's definitely, when going into this, I would imagine like everything's rigid and contractual and like no stepping out of the lines, but it does sound like you get a lot of freedom in some places that you go with.
Yeah, and it can be hard too, because when you get the offer, when you get the offer for your contract to start traveling on whatever job you're going on, they basically tell you what your pay rate is, at least from our experience. They don't say like, all right, how much do you want to make? They say, this is going to be your weekly pay. This is what you're going to make after taxes, probably, that kind of thing. And you don't know if that's a good deal. You don't know if it's a bad deal. You're assuming it's a good deal. It seems like a lot of money, but you don't know if you could make a little bit more. You don't know if some other people are making more, so sometimes it can be hard to say to them, I like your offer, but can I get a little bit more,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. Do you guys have a favorite travel story out of the past 2.5 to 3 years?
We were discussing this.
We definitely. You can tell the story because it happened to you. I was just kind of there.
Say it happened to me. I was going to say it happened to one of us.
It would definitely happen to you.
It's a super embarrassing story, but I'm going to share it because it's so funny. So
I'm going to open this a little bit.
I'm just going to say everything may or may not have happened, and it happened to one of us. There was a place that we worked at, and there was like a portion of the building that was kind of closed. They just don't have a need for that area. They got their census was low or something. But because there were still rooms, there was bathrooms in these rooms. And everybody knew that there was these bathrooms. So it was almost like the secret private bathroom. Well, I think they weren't used a lot. And one of us may or may not have clogged the toilet. But they didn't know. So they flushed the toilet. And it wasn't like a typical clog. It was like a movie scene where it literally overflowed and filled this entire deserted patient's room.
And like, there's no plungers in hospitals.
No.
You go plunger yourself.
You're not even supposed to be in that area. Right. It's locked, but it turns out it's locked. The door is locked, but if we found out that if you push the handicap button and then push the door, it overrides the lock system. So you can't even call maintenance and be like, hey, I just walked into this. Because they'd be like, 1, why are you there? 2, who even did that?
Yeah.
And then nothing was there to clean it up because it's a deserted patient room. And we literally like, we left the hospital and we never, ever told anyone that it was us.
Well,
we told one nurse.
Well, that wasn't the full story.
No,
I mean, I don't know what the person was thinking, but they were just in a panic. So they tried to use like a sheet to clean it up.
That was on the bed.
But like, there's no one changing linens in there. So like, now there's just a wet,
dirty
toilet water sheet like hanging out in the room,
pushed in the corner,
like in the room. And then other people from our department knew about this room to like document it because you could document in there, no one will bother you, that kind of stuff. And so let's just be honest, it was you. Calls me on our little phones, and she's like, "Hey, we gotta leave."
I literally thought
we gotta go.
And I said, we need to call our company right now. We're quitting today.
So like I go over there and she's like, don't look in there. And I'm like, it's cool. I'll just call maintenance. I'll say it's me. And like, it's cool. I'll just be like, it happened. Like, I don't know what happened. And she was like, no, don't tell anyone. We'll just leave it there. Hopefully it'll go down. So we leave, we go about our day. Later, she gets a call from one of our coworkers like, hey, come over to like, this wing, we'll document, we're hanging out.
We want to hang out with you guys.
And so she goes over there. I was doing something else.
No, you came with too.
Well, I think I went later because I wasn't there at the bathroom. And the one girl and then another person is in there too. And she's like, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom. So she goes over into the bathroom.
And I'm standing there
Kelsey knows that I'm not in any shape to go to the bathroom. But she can't say anything because that admits guilt.
You can't be like, don't go in there.
So she just says nothing. And then the girl comes back and she's like,
oh my God, that bathroom is a disaster. And I was like, what? And so then she called maintenance. Yeah. And so tonight she's still, I mean, if she watches it, she probably won't.
It was bad.
I don't know if she was on the internet, but yeah. I spent a whole day thinking like, we can't work here anymore. But that's the best part about traveling. Guess what? Then our contract was up and then I'll let her know, but this one nurse who works there.
And that's the importance of finding a good secret bathroom at the location so that no one bothers you, but that you can't be blamed for what happens in there.
That was probably like one of the worst traveling experiences I've ever had. But now I can laugh about it. It's been like
oh my gosh. So did you end up calling the recruiter and being like, hey, we need to talk?
I think we texted him.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it to him and be like, hey, like we might have to cut this one short.
I think he texted him and I think he actually texted and like just warned him, like if Kelsey texts you, ignore her. Like something small, just disregard anything she to you in like the next 24 hours. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. That is so funny. It reminds me of one of the clinicals I went on. Just kind of bathroom story. Nothing nearly that exciting.
Any bathroom story is a good story.
But they had, so one of the clinics I went to was basically an old barn. It wasn't like your typical barn where it's like hay and stuff like that, but it was a tool shed. So there's like concrete floor, there's no windows, and all the outside was like metal. And so it was just this barn that we treated in because that was the only building available for a PT clinic. And so we would treat in there, but the restroom that they had had no locks. So it just like, it barely had something to like kind of clip the door in. Nope. And then you just prayed while you're in there that nobody would like step in.
No, I would never go to the bathroom.
Yeah, that would give me bathroom phobia, I think.
I'd probably make you like stand outside the door.
Yeah, there'd be like a guard.
We have to go like in pairs.
Yeah.
Did anybody ever walk in on anyone?
Not while I was there.
Right.
And I didn't hear any stories. So I guess the system worked out well though. You just like, kind of slowly open it and knock a little bit.
And knock the entire time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would give me anxiety. I couldn't do that.
Oh my gosh. Do you guys hike a bunch? Do you guys like hiking?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll also tell this story. This is probably one of the most embarrassing stories I have. I was going to try and avoid it, but it's going to get brought up anyhow. So
yeah. This is a good time. So we can both kind of suffer together.
Yeah. So, one of my trips out to Colorado's first time I've ever went like actual hiking, like in the mountains. Me and my classmate decided on a Sunday that we were going to go out and go car camping. So I had been camping before, but never hiking. And he had been hiking before, but never camping. And so we thought that this would be a great match. We were just going to, come together, go hiking, come back, do the car camping thing. It'll be fine. And so we left out on that Tuesday. I had enough time to get me a good sleeping bag and to find a rental car. And so we traveled out, and it was probably like a 16-hour drive. We get there. We knew some people near Denver, stayed at their place, and then we went out to these mountains. Well, the first mountain I ever hiked, I ended up getting altitude sickness real bad. Yeah. And so like my lips were all cyanotic at the top, and that was awful. That is like, I felt like dying. That was terrible. Gosh, I bought like 4 or 5 Gatorades and just chugged them at the top, because luckily it was one of these touristy areas, so there was actually something at the top. So there's actually a picture of me after that. Maybe I'll put it in the show notes. And I thought I was smiling for this photo. And you look at me in this photo, and I'm just staring at the camera. Just like that. Completely out of it.
Like death is upon you soon. You're just like.
And 1 second, guys, I'm going to put it on pause. Pizza's getting delivered and the dog likes to bark.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm jealous.
But yeah, so after that first hiking experience, then I was like, okay, so I know altitude sickness is dehydration, so I'm going to pack all the water bottles. This isn't going to be an issue again. This next one we're going to doesn't have like a shop at the top, so I'm going to make sure I'm good.
As most don't.
And so I packed my backpack full of water bottles, and it was so heavy that it ended up like slowing me down pretty significantly. And then my boots that I was wearing were my old hunting boots, and so they weren't very. They were really worn in, and one of the soles ended up falling completely off of my boot. And so I had to no traction on one side. And then the last 200, 300 yards of this mountain, after we accidentally, usually when you're going on these hikes, there's little stones piled up for you to follow and know where the switchbacks are. Well, all of a sudden we noticed that the piles of stones turned into red flags and red markers. And so we were following those, and it was on these giant boulders, and they were really shifty and moving around, and we were just following this other couple with a dog. And well, the red markers meant don't go here, not please follow. And so rocks and stuff, these big chunks of rocks falling from this other couple ahead of us. And so that's when the sole of my boot fell off, was from basically climbing these freaking rocks all the way up this mountain. And then we look behind us and we see all the other people going up this nice little switchback. And well, I was already defeated by the time we got close to this thing. And then it's a straight up incline to the top. And I mean, it's only 200 yards. And my shoe didn't have any tread to it. And so I was trying to do this, and I couldn't find any tread. And another couple was coming down. So I got to the side, and I ended up sliding probably 10 feet. And I look behind me, and I'm holding on, and I have big fear of heights. And I'm on the edge of this mountain, looking down, and it's just a straight drop off into these rocks. And so I'm freaking out, breathing's going fast, heart rate's booming in my ears. And so I decided to abandon it, not worth it. And so I was so close to the top, and I just started going the other direction. If you ask my friend that went along with me, he was a cross country runner. So me trying to keep up with him endurance wise, that was a terrible idea anyhow. But he was at the top of the mountain. He's watching me. He's oh, you're almost here. And he's waving at me. And then he thought I was waving back, but really I was waving go on without me. I'm good. And so I started heading the other way. And so he's oh gosh, and starts taking some photos, and then he heads back down. The entire way back down this mountain, I am so defeated. I don't.
Never
No, I never made it to the top.
You didn't just go to the right path then and then go, or you were already done?
It was all like up incline, and I, almost fell off, and I was just, I'm done. I'm just going back. And so heading back down, we go back the correct way, and it's so much easier. And so I'm just like, I'm sour and just like going along. And then all of a sudden, we've been hiking like all day, and so you have to use the restroom. It's like, oh gosh. So luckily he was a cross country runner, so he's used to this. So he hands me a roll of toilet paper. I was like, oh, thank you. And so I run over, I'm, behind a rock, like getting ready to do my thing. And I see him walk off, and I'm behind this like big boulder. And so there's a trail, and I ran off from that. There's a big boulder here. And so I'm like behind this, nobody can see me. But I can hear like groups of people walking by. And so I'm like there doing my thing. And then I hear this like group of people. And so I'm like, oh. And so I'm like crouching down behind this thing. And I hear their voices, and I can kind of see their heads up above this boulder, and they keep walking. It's like, okay, it's good. So I'm getting ready, still kind of in the middle of it. And then all of a sudden they come out in front of me walking. It's like, oh no, what are you guys doing? Why? Oh. Well, it was this like family. So there's like this young kid, he's like 13, 15 years old. And there's like, dad and mom there, and then like some other people, and they all like pose for a picture. And then I am like in the direct background of this picture,
you're
like
in
in this squat. And so I have my hat on, and I'm just like covering my face, like in a full squat behind this boulder.
That's hilarious.
So I just stay there. Hopefully they didn't notice me, and then they take their photos, and then they walk away. And so I hang out there for another like 10, 15 minutes, and then I finally like go down, making sure to walk really slow so I don't bump into him at all.
Oh my God.
My buddy had gone his route, and so he met me at where the main road met. It's where the trail began. And so I walked up to him. I was like, hey, did you see anybody come by? And he was like telling me all these people. And he's like, oh yeah, I talked to this one group who had like this like boy with him. It was his birthday. And so they were doing a 13er for his 13th birthday. And it was the group that had taken the photo. And so I was like, man, I'm going to end up being like somebody's Christmas card or something like that.
Do you think that they like looked at their photo later and they were just like,
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm expecting it to go like viral in like 10 years.
You're just waiting. Talk about a photobomb.
Yeah, no joke. Oh my gosh.
That's your friend's fault. He should have been on lookout.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you should yell at him about that. That was so bad.
Then we had like our rental car couldn't make it up the roads, so we had another 2 to 3 mile walk down this like steep hill, and we got back to the car. We didn't talk for like 10 minutes, and then we're just like throwing socks around and like changing our boots and stuff. And it's like, yeah, all right, so what do we do now? He's like, right. Well, we're going to get off this godforsaken mountain, go somewhere warm, get something to eat. And so that's what we did. And then I had a flight of beer after that.
Oh, that's the best way. Yeah. That's a good reward.
I called my father right after that, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to go hiking. I'm going to need at least a year to recover from this before I go back out.
That's a bad one too, because it's like, what was worse, like the fact that you were so close, or the photo bomb? Like, I don't know. That's I think it's good to turn around even if you're close. We've been close before on hikes, and I've been like, no.
Yeah.
And I'm always the one who's like I'll see like a clearly like rock face that you like would have trouble climbing with gear, and before we get to it, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I could get up that. And she's like, no, you're not going up that. That's an insane thing to do. And I'm like, no, but like, I could get up it. And I'm like, there's absolutely no way I could get up this. I don't know why I ever thought I could.
Yeah.
So I just have like, no, we balance each other out really well.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Maybe that's what I'll title this one like photobomb or something like that.
Oh my God, please do. Please.
Oh gosh. All right. I've forgotten all the other questions. Hold on. Let me look. What are some like books or podcasts or personalities that you guys follow? This can be for travel, or this could be for your own personal interests.
It's technically not a podcast or a movie, but I would say the biggest thing we do is follow as many people on social media and join as many groups as possible. I think I'm part of over 10 traveling. Some are traveling therapy, some are just traveling healthcare, some's just travelers. I have learned so much through that. It's like amazing how everybody comes together. I can ask the most random question and people give like the best answers and feedback. And that's been a lifesaver.
Yeah. And it's also like, we belong to different, just by chance, like different Facebook groups for like travel PT, for instance. And literally the other day, I had the day before, one of my travel groups had a question about tax home stuff. And then at work that day, we were talking to another traveler, and he had a question about tax home. Mm-hmm. And then she put a question on one of her groups that she's like belongs to about tax home. And then someone else, but I actually think you had on your show,
the travel tax guy or the couple?
The couple.
Is their last name Gibson? The Freedom Scrubs?
Yeah.
So
Like they link to their own stuff, and then like
video clip to answer
so it
my
all
question.
kind of links together, you know, which is kind of cool. Like everyone has these questions, and it's not just you who's confused on it, you know. Yeah,
and I think when we were in school, a lot of our professors always used the expression "clear as mud," which was really annoying. But hindsight, I mean, that's a lot of what travel therapy is. It's you ask a question, and there is no clear cut. There's not a policy written down. So it really helps having these other people that say, okay, there's not a policy, but here's what we do and here's guidelines we've been told to follow. And so it kind of helps, you know, answer things. And they also, you can ask stuff about specific traveling therapy, but there's also a lot about growing as a profession. You know, the other day I was having trouble with G codes because they were wanting me to put a discharge G code, even though I didn't get to do the discharge. It was kind of an unexpected discharge. Okay. And so it's nice to be able to ask on this group. And then people actually gave me stuff that I could even cite. And so then I could go up to my manager and say, no, I am not going to do this. I don't feel comfortable with my license. And here's now written citing stuff on why I'm not going to do it. So it gives you more, I don't know, power-ish.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Just the power to say no and finding those clear cut answers when they are there, and then knowing kind of where that gray area is and what you're comfortable with. I did just get into one with billing through, and I didn't realize that billing units for physical therapy at least was made by the American Medical Association. So they're the ones that said it. I always thought it was the insurances themselves. But now I have that power from that statement from the American Medical Association saying this is what a billing unit is. This is how you can kind of, basically it's every 15 minutes, but if you show intent of every 8 minutes, you can like use that as a billing unit. And so I have that within my, saved file. So if I'm ever in a situation down the road, I do have that ability to split up and use that, to kind of support me and back me up. But absolutely. I think the travel community is definitely changing with more and more people reaching out and helping each other. And I also think there's a lot of noise out there too.
Yes.
Hopefully everybody can get a part of a group that's pretty positive and supportive versus how social media sometimes turns into just this big negativity and complaining and things aren't going the way they want to and things like that.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any myths that you guys had heard about traveling physical therapy before you got into it that you wanted to kind of clear up?
I mean, most of the myths that we had heard about it were related to like the fact that you're going to work in a SNF and
the places are horrible.
The places are horrible. They're going to ask you to do illegal things. Now, granted, there have been some places that have asked us to do, I don't know if they've explicitly thinking they're illegal or unethical things, but they're things that they don't like really realize might not actually be on the up and up. The G code thing, for instance, is a good example of this place. Like it's not that they want you to do something unethical or illegal or something. It's just that that's their system. That's how it's always been. And they don't understand that the G codes were invented to, provide certain outcomes for eval and discharge and progress notes. And if you don't actually take those validated outcomes, then you really can't report on them. You can't just like guesstimate it, and so, we've had some of those, but a lot less than we would have thought.
It's not the most common. We would say most places just need people because it's more the location. It's a small town and people don't care unless their family grew up there. And it's actually interesting because our whole first year of traveling, we went to great locations. They just had so many patients to be seen and they could not hire on fast enough. And one of our friends who took a permanent location, he actually was getting into more unethical things than we were. So it was interesting. Probably another thing, the new grad, our program was very negative about doing traveling. I even reached out to them later and said, hey, could we ever come back and talk to everybody about it? And they straight up said no. Wow. They said, we don't encourage it. It's not good for student growth and all this stuff. And it's so funny because I could not disagree more. Since graduation, I not only have experience in almost, I think, every single setting at this point, but then I can even refresh it. And so I would say, as long as you ask the right questions during your interview, you can find the best mentorship, and it can actually be better for new grads.
Yeah. I don't think, because that's kind of how my program was as well. In one sense, they were very supportive of my decision, but at the other sense, I was met with like, oh, well, I know this student's friend, aunt, was trying to do it, and then this is the situation they got into. And so you're met by just a bunch of horror stories meant to kind of steer you away from it. But I don't think the probability of you running into an unethical situation is any higher with a travel position than it would be for a permanent position. I think just the amount of volume that we see puts us more likely into getting maybe into a clinic that does have unethical things going on. But the overall like percentage, when you compare, one clinic to one clinic, I don't think it's any higher. And I've heard that within this area and seeing friends and kind of like, they made their mistakes on contracts too, which is another good thing because we get multiple experiences with multiple contracts that we're able to make those mistakes and then move on. It's not like this big looming thing that's going to follow us for 6 years or so.
Exactly. Yeah. And it seems easier to get out of contracts too. As a traveler, almost all of our contracts we've ever had, you only have to give 2 weeks and it can be for any reason. So I had one job at a SNF where they were trying to get me to do something unethical. They wanted me to chart review in the patient's room. They wanted me to sit in a chair next to this patient and just read through their chart and then count that as billable time, which you can't.
Right.
But if you're in a nursing home and this patient's already agitated, they're going to be so weirded out at like, you just like sitting, just being like, interesting. Okay. And so I kept arguing with them, no, and I never did it. And I just kept saying no. And they kept saying, no, you have to. So finally, after a final meeting, I texted my recruiter, said, put in my 2 weeks, get me another job. They did by the end of the day, where if that would have been my permanent job, I probably would have had to have gone through way more hoops to actually get out of that situation.
It gives you, the more times you're dealing with a situation, the better off you're going to be in dealing with that situation in the future. So if you've only had one job and then 5 years down the road, let's say they get taken over by a bigger company and the bigger company wants you to run it more like a factory or something like that, you've never dealt with a situation of saying, no, this is my license, or no, I don't think this is best for the patients. Whereas we've worked at 4 or 5 different places in 2.5 years. We have the experience of seeing what really works for companies and then seeing what doesn't work for companies and what doesn't work for patients too. So
got it. Absolutely. Those are all really good points. And then do you guys have anything to say to maybe a couple out there, a married couple who are thinking about making the leap to do this whole travel thing? Maybe they elope during school as well.
You definitely
totally
want to do
it. Just do it. First off, it is so great for your relationship. Like I said, it's just the two of you, just doing whatever you want. It's great. We were able to pay off already so much of our student loans, and then we're continuing. I think we paid off $60,000 in just the first year, which is crazy. You can't do that anywhere else.
Yeah.
And then you can always stop. You can always put in your 2 weeks. So even if you don't like it, just do 3 months and then just go back. It's really easy.
It gives you good experience, and you might not I don't, especially if you don't have a preference. If you really like outpatient, like we met some travelers who love outpatient and they're always looking for outpatient jobs, then it can be a little bit more challenging, but sometimes you can get better opportunities out of that too. So, but if you really don't have a preference, if you've worked in a SNF, you've worked in acute, you came out of school and thought, I could do any of these, then you can kind of cycle between those. And as you work more in it, you might find that you do actually have a preference for it, or you like switching jobs, every 3 months or 6 months.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Kelsey and Phil, for joining me. It's super exciting. Thank you. Thank you. For the listeners, did you have a way that you wanted them to contact you? I'll be adding you to the New Medical Nomads group on Facebook, so they can reach out there. But I didn't know if you guys had any other way you want them to contact.
We do. We actually have a website.
Okay.
We also have a blog, but the blog talks about so much stuff. We live in a tiny home. We've only lived in it for a year. It was one of the best decisions we made as a traveler. Mm-hmm. So we have a website where we talk about just all of our vacations in our tiny home, and it's mlmrtravel.com. The acronym is for Minimalist Living Maximum Results.
Okay.
And you can contact us there, or just send an email to mail@mlmr.com or travel.com. Or on Facebook. Find us on any social media.
Yeah, we're all over the place.
Yeah, let's talk about the tiny home for a little bit. When did you guys get that?
So we did our first year and a half worth of traveling, and we had good luck finding apartments in the first 2 places we were at, and then the third place we were at, we only could find a 6-month lease for a 3-month contract. So we were hoping to kind of renew, and the landlord that we dealt with was kind of like a slumlord.
He's evil.
Yeah, it didn't really,
evil.
Not, we won't get too much into it, but not a very good guy, right? And so we, at some point in between the 2 jobs, before we had even dealt with him, we were trying to think of easier ways to do things.
We did unfurnished apartments. We have 2 cats that come with us. So we would rent UHauls, and we got really good at unloading and reloading within like an hour, but that still was a lot of work. Yeah. And then and we'd have to tow our car, and then the other person would have to be driving a car, because we had 2 cars for a while, which I don't know.
Yeah, we had a lot of stuff.
It was so we were already kind of talking about the trailer, and then we actually even had to turn down one job because we could not find housing. And we like doing our own housing because you seem to get paid more, you get to pocket more of that money.
Yeah.
And he had wanted to do the trailer for a while, and I did not, because I hate stripes on a trailer. I know it's so weird. It's like not a big deal, but I hated it. So he was reading through a magazine, and we were already kind of we'd already done it for a year. We dealt with a slumlord, and then he found this wooden trailer, all wooden. It was like, let's do it. Think about it. And then I think we were in the car, and I was like, okay, let's do it. And then we
kind of just went from there.
And just went got it. Okay. It took a little convincing, because we looked at the actual tiny homes, and those are not really meant to be relocated as much as I thought. Okay. Or you need a really big truck, and we didn't want that. Okay. So this tiny trailer home is only 18 feet long. Okay. Max weight is 3,500. So we tow it with an Audi Q5, which is great.
And it can tow with Subaru. I know Subaru Forester can tow it. A lot of mid-size SUVs can tow it.
Yeah. I think can tow it.
Okay. So makes it easy to handle.
But he did need one more convincing, because we actually don't have a shower. We join gyms, and then it makes you work out because you have to shower. At the gym, you're like, at least do 20 minutes. Yeah. So that took him maybe a few days to convince.
Yeah. Okay. It's not too bad. Yeah.
I was like, you don't need a shower, but it's very eco-friendly. I'm a huge environmentalist. He does whatever.
I'm a new environmentalist.
So we have all solar panels. I think since we moved to California, we haven't even used their energy. So it's all solar energy. Wow. toilet is composting. So it's like a human cat litter box.
Okay.
Yeah, we kind of buried the lead. We kind of led them all into this, and then all of a sudden we're like, surprise, we're hippies. Like we're on solar power, we're pooping in a bucket and all this stuff.
It's not a bucket. It looks like it.
It is kind of a bucket.
I mean,
it's a nice bucket, you know?
It's a nice
Our website does have like video, picture, and then we're starting to make pages.
Yeah, so. But no, it works out really well because, I mean,
it's been amazing.
we've done a couple placements in Ohio and now one in California. And one, we saved about $2,000 on our rent per month being around the Bay Area and being able to live in like an RV park rather than having to rent out an apartment.
Yeah.
And then the ease of being able to move it versus being in a 6-month lease or a 3-month lease versus just having that month to month every time, which is really nice. So,
and the job, we don't like cutting our contracts early. We actually never have, except for that one place that was unethical. And it was so nice that I didn't have hanging over me like, well, you already are in this lease. Instead, it was just like, we just told the RV park, like, this is our last month. And they're like, okay.
yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
I've heard, getting out of those RV parks are much easier than say like, getting into an Airbnb or a apartment complex, especially if you're like signing for all 3 months at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And little things you don't think about. Every time you go to a new place, you have to get internet in your name. You have to get water in your name, electric in your name. And some places will want you to put a deposit down until you pay for a year. And you're like, I'm not going to pay a year. I'm not going to be here a year. And it's like, so it's nice. And our cats love it.
When you got the trailer, was there any like work that you had to put into it? Was it like just bare bones, like just the walls when it came in, or?
Oh, Lord, that's
So
a good question.
it was done. When it rains a lot or it rains sideways, we get a little bit of drippage, and I now have a little bit of, let's call it PTSD about when it rains, even though I love the rain. But like anytime it rains, like at night, it could be dead quiet night, it's raining a little bit, and all of a sudden, like, I'll somehow hear the dripping while I'm sleeping, and I'll just like pop up and be like, there's rain somewhere. Like,
the company is wonderful. We bought, I think, the 10th one ever even made, and it was not meant to live in. Now they have a new model that is more for living, but the guy made it himself for camping. People loved it. He said, okay, I'll just build more. So when we told them what we were doing, they said, like, we love you guys. We're all for this. We did not design it. We were like, we're going to do it anyway because we love your wooden trailer and how light. So they've been working with us every step of the way, but it is not waterproof.
Yeah, I mean, everything else, we decorated it a little bit. I mean, we really have very minimal stuff. Like we before buying it, or on our last clinical before we bought the trailer, we actually we were on the West Coast and we needed to move everything back home for a couple months because we were doing a long vacation and stuff. So we ended up driving everything that we owned back along with us and our 2 cats across the country in a Honda Civic. If that tells you how much stuff we have. We didn't ship anything. That was all that we owned.
That's literally all of our stuff. Clothes, dishes,
so like
food.
We own nothing. So, I mean, that really helped. If you were trying to move into a trailer with a whole bunch of stuff, obviously that would make it a lot harder. But the actual move-in process for it wasn't too bad. We
also had them do some customizations before we even bought it. I'm on Pinterest. Do you have Pinterest?
Do I? It's on my list to get, but no, I do not.
I don't get it.
I love Pinterest. So I had already gotten so many ideas. So by the time I walked into this meeting with this company, I was already ready. I was like, I'm going to need you to make that a wooden pole instead because I want to do a curtain there. I need you to add a pole here because I want to do a closet here. And they were like, okay. But they liked it, and they do like when we send them stuff. But it is kind of, I mean, some people probably would be annoyed having to put your bed in every day back into a couch.
You got it.
We don't like
it.
Yeah. It's just a new habit.
Exactly.
One of those. Got it. So you guys then, for the shower component, you just go get a 24/7 gym access.
Yeah.
Do that. Okay.
Yep. And we've almost every time, there was only one time that we went to the gym without actually working out. So it has worked out to make us like work out.
Yeah, but didn't we hike?
More accountable.
Yeah,
we
I mean,
hiked.
there's a qualifier on that we hiked, so that's why we didn't work out. But still,
we should also give full disclosure. We love vacations. Like more than like we literally have a vacation every single weekend till the end of the year. We typically go out of town or something every other week. So we do stay in a lot of hotels. So it's not never get this. It's really the high life. We do.
Got it. Very cool. So you contacted a company that was able to do all the assembly and stuff like that. And I've seen like groups out there that almost have like a DIY, like do it yourself.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I've figured out some of like the smaller stuff, but like the process of us like fixing things in the trailer, it's just clear how out of our element we are. Because like I'll call the guy and he's really nice. He's always receptive. Always will text me back, call me back. I'll call him and he'll be like, all right, you're going to do step 1, 2, and 3. And I'm like, okay, I understood what you're saying, but explain it to me now like I'm 5. Like, okay, let's try this again. And like I can basically get it, but not very well. So
we're actually taking it to them again in February to do like a year checkup, and they're gonna update some stuff.
Yeah,
so. Cool. Yeah. And I'll definitely put your stuff down in the show notes because then the listeners can see the before, and then we'll do an update and you'll have the after. So that'd be
no, it's good.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Has there been any like challenges along with it other than just like fixing the drippage and things like that that you've ran into owning a tiny home?
No, we made the mistake when we were driving out. Well, I don't know. Well,
oh my
Joey,
God.
I don't know if Joey will watch this, but
Joey won't watch it. My brother made us something that there's a chance Phil forgot to lock the latch in our back. Like the back is extra storage. And Phil forgot to lock it. And we were driving from Ohio to California. And this car pulled up to us on the highway and was going like, and we thought he was saying like, cool trailer. That's not what he was saying. He was saying like,
your back hatch is open. Stuff's coming out.
So we pull over on the highway because at some point I was like, that guy was way too frantic over just seeing a wooden trailer. And so we pull over and we see that we forgot to lock the back latch, and that was where most of our storage was. So my brother made us this like customized wooden ledge that went over the spot that was open, that was gone. Other random
lost
things.
Like a license plate.
Yeah, we lost our license plate. We had to email Ohio because now we're in California. So we had to like email Ohio DMV and be like, hey, can you like resend us our license plate?
Yeah.
So that was the only bad thing.
We picked it up right before Christmas of last year. So we've had it about a year now. And we actually were driving it back to Ohio. We had to pick it up from Seattle and right outside Seattle. And then we drove it all the way across the country. And it just so happened that when we picked it up, we left at about 8 o'clock Seattle, and it was already dark because it was December. It started raining. It started snowing. And we had to go from Seattle kind of over through the mountains, through Montana. And so like the very next day, we had never driven a trailer, never towed anything, either one of us. And we are on the fly. What was the name of it?
Did your thing yell at you too? Okay,
there we go.
Back.
We're on the fly kind of learning how to tow things, and we're going up a mountain pass and then down a mountain pass.
Wow.
Into, like, blizzard
Snow
conditions. And so like at that point we were like, okay, if we got the trailer through this, we should be okay for anything else. So.
You know what's really cool is when you relocate to different locations, you don't have to get a hotel anymore. We just pull over at a rest stop, and the cats are in their crate in the car while we travel, and then we all just go into the trailer, sleep at the rest stop, and then we all go back in the car and leave. And that saved us money and time.
Yeah.
How is like stopping and sleeping at rest stops? Are there any sketchy ones, or is it pretty?
We haven't had any trouble.
There was there was that one sketchy one, and I actually got like horrible like stomach flu something. And there was one time where I remember going into this like it was 4 o'clock in the morning because I woke up like about to throw up. And I remember like rushing to this bathroom and thinking like, I wish someone would try to kidnap me right now. Like I will throw up all over them. Oh, sorry. Now we're moving stuff.
I'm trying to figure out the light.
But I don't think that light's gonna work. That's a little bit better. So that was the only sketchy one.
Yeah, no, it wasn't too bad.
But no, for the most part, actually, weird story. The worst experience we've had when traveling is when we didn't have a trailer and there was the only hotel within miles and they gave us a dirty room. And so we go into this room and the bed's clearly been slept in. And so I turned to Phil and I'm like, oh, did you already jump in the bed? And he's like, no.
But I was so tired at that point that I was like, no. And I was just getting into bed
and then
anyways.
he almost got into the bed. And I was like, stop, what are you doing? Stop. This is a dirty room. And he was like, I don't even care. I just need to sleep. And I was like, no, we're not sleeping. So we had to go back downstairs and they were like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, we haven't had too many issues.
I would say hotels have been more sketchy than just.
Okay. Got it. Very cool. What was the initial cost of the tiny home?
Okay, that is actually funny because if you're an RVer, you're going to think we're crazy because most RVers tell us we're stupid and crazy. Yeah. It was about $40,000.
It was about $40,000. They have slightly different models now. The company does. And ours is kind of the fully upgraded one that has the most solar power, the most battery, water heater, updated fridge, and everything like that. I think it starts at about 30,000.
Maybe even less. One might be maybe 26 or 28. We've learned through meeting friends at RV parks in the world of RVs, 40,000 can get you an RV mansion.
Okay.
So most people, when they see our trailer, they're like, you guys are ripped off. Because we paid for the wood and the solar panels and the extra battery spaces and that kind of thing. And it was what we wanted.
Right. But it sounds like you're getting care along the way and that relationship. And I don't know what you guys are doing with the upgrades, if there's cost with that or not, but
we will see.
Yeah.
What company did you guys go through?
Homegrown Trailers.
Okay. Okay. I'll put a link down there below as well. And do you guys have an affiliate link?
We don't.
I think if you do go on and you buy, I know I've talked to them before. If you do go on and you end up buying a trailer or whatever, if you tell them that we referred you, they will.
Then they give us.
They give us money, but it's not an official referral.
We link to them too on basically our entire website. If you go to one of our posts about something, we link to them because they really are a great company and they're locally owned. It's a small business.
Very
and
cool. Okay.
I mean, they'll call us back on a Saturday night at 8:00.
Yeah.
He'll even be like, sorry, if you hear yelling in the background, it's my kids. We just And we're like, dude, don't call us. Call us on Monday.
And you don't have to buy them either. They rent them in around Seattle. So if you're in Seattle, you just have to get a vehicle that'll tow, and then you can rent them, take them camping, take them for the weekend. So
yeah, if you want to link to them, definitely, because they're so sweet. And
I'll plug them below. And listeners, if you are interested in getting a tiny home, tell them Phil and Kelsey sent you. And a little kickback too. And that's good. Yeah, supporting small business and your guys' values of being environmentally friendly and things like that. But all right. Thank you guys so much for joining. Listeners, if you have any questions for them, you can reach out to the contacts they dropped before, or just go to New Medical Nomads on the Facebook group, and then you can reach out to them as well. If you're waiting for the next launch of the episode, you can go to the New Medical Nomads podcast. That's the Facebook page. That's where I officially launch things. And then if you want to get early access, you can either follow us on iTunes or follow the YouTube channel. And then those usually drop about a week to 2 weeks before the official launch. But whatever you're listening on, if you can thumbs up, give us a like, give us a share, show us some love. We appreciate getting our message out to other people. But thank you so much, guys. This has been awesome. Sharing speaking tiny homes and travel marriage.
Yeah, the travel. That's it. Man, we should have named that our blog.
Tiny homes and travel marriage.
Yes, we've already changed our blog name. We're sticking with it.
I love it.
All right. Well, you guys have safe travels.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You too.